is present with his attorney as well as counsel for the state. Do you know if all of them are back?
Yes.
All right. Anything we need to address before we bring in the jury?
So not that I'm aware.
There you go.
You do have additional.
I do. We have to now do physical exhibits.
All right. Very well. If you'll bring in the jury. Do you want your computer back?
Okay.
Present. We are now ready to proceed. Mr. Sachs, you may resume with your direct examination.
Thank you. Agent Smithy, we've now gone through a lot of the, when you talked about processing of crime scenes from last week, you talked about how you started off doing a lot of documentation. Is that correct?
Correct.
I think we've now been through a lot of that documentation. Is that also correct?
Correct.
Would that include the photographs and the sketches and the things like that that you talked about?
Yes.
After basically documenting the crime scene, do you then get involved with the collection of physical evidence from the scene?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And we've seen in various photographs and videos how you place evidence placards near something to note something for a photograph. Are those the actual items that you would go around and collect?
Yes, they are.
Before we get to the scene, let me get to, since we left off kind of with those search warrants, let me pick up from there.
Okay.
Back on January the 15th of 2013, you indicated that you collected some items pursuant to a search warrant and photographed those in your lab later on. Is that right?
Correct.
What items were those?
Was this from 165 Montesino?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There was a 7.62 rifle. There was also a .45 caliber handgun, one .45 caliber magazine, and a pair of Nike shoes.
Okay. If I may approach you on?
Yes, you may.
And let me start with what's been previously marked by identification as State Exhibit number 5. You see that red sticker with the 5 on it?
Yes, I do.
First of all, as you just look at that for a moment and see if you can tell us what that is.
This is a large gun box that we normally use for collecting rifles. It's got an evidence marker on the front showing our agency, the case number for this particular case, my name, and a description of what's inside the box.
And I believe as you have that box right now, it's in an open condition or has been opened before, correct?
Correct.
As you look inside that box, do you see or recognize the item that's inside State Exhibit number 5?
I do.
What is that?
This is the 7.62 rifle collected from Montesino Drive.
Okay. And with that rifle, were there also the magazine clips and the unfired rounds from those clips in with it?
Yes, there are.
And approach. May I approach her?
Yes, you may.
you see a bag there now with a red sticker on it that says State Exhibit 5A. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
What is the bag marked State Exhibit 5A?
It is a collection of unfired rifle rounds that had come from the magazine of the 7.62 rifle.
Okay. And State Exhibits 5B and 5C, do you see those in there?
I do.
And what are those?
These are the two magazines that came with the rifle that was collected.
And I think as we saw in a photograph when you were prosecuting your lab, when you first got those, they were actually taped together. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you remove that tape?
I did.
Okay. Looking at the rifle there that's State Exhibit number 5, as well as the bag of unfired rounds 5A and the magazines marked 5B and 5C, do those items all appear to be in the same condition as when you last saw them back in January of 2013 in your lab?
No, they do not.
And how are they different?
There's zip ties that have been run through the barrel of the gun, and I believe there's a envelope or some sort of paper inside the chamber of the gun as well.
Are you aware of other agencies or places where these weapons may have been sent for further processing?
Yes. At times we'll send weapons or bullets to the state lab for further examination, and I believe that this is where that's where this weapon went once we processed it.
And so other than that zip tie and that paper, I guess, kind of jammed in the chamber there, is that right?
Yes.
Other than that, does it appear to be in the same condition?
It does.
Okay. I move then to introduce State Exhibits 5, 5A, 5B, and 5C in the evidence.
Any objections? States 5, 5A, and 5B are all admitted into evidence. And I'm sorry, did you say there was a 5C too?
Yes.
5B and C of the magazines. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So all of states 5, A, B, and C are admitted.
Switch there. I will give you what's been previously marked as Exhibit number 6. Do you see that?
Yes.
Take 5 from you. Do you recognize State Exhibit number 6?
I do.
What is that?
This is a gun evidence box that we normally place handguns into when we collect them from a scene.
Okay. And again, does it have that same identifying information on the front of that box that you saw in the previous one?
It does. Same information, our agency name, as well as my initials on the tape.
Okay. And that gun appears to have been opened previously, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So as you look inside that box, what do you find?
It's a black and color handgun with a single magazine, a bag containing projectiles and shell casings, and a bag that's sealed up, and I'm not sure what's in here.
Okay.
I believe it's bullets.
All right. Looking at that gun that's marked State Exhibit number 6, does that appear to be the same handgun that you received into evidence from that search warrant that was done at 165 Montesino Drive back on January the 15th of 2013?
It appears to be, yes.
Okay. And does it appear to be in the same condition as when you last saw it, as we saw in the photographs in your lab back in January of 2013?
No, it does not.
And what are the reasons why?
There are the same zip ties run through the cylinder of this gun as well. There's different packaging for the bullets and the projectiles and shell casings.
And again, are you aware whether or not this weapon was likely sent to another agency or place for further analysis?
I believe this weapon also was sent to the North Carolina State Lab.
Okay. Other than that, other than the zip ties in those items, does the gun itself appear to be, excuse me, in the same condition as when you last saw it back in January of 2013?
It does.
And if I may approach, Ron?
Yes, you may.
Here. No, thank you. Looking at inside that box that states Exhibit 6A, do you see what the red sticker that says 6A is on?
Yes, I do.
And what is that on?
This is it's on the magazine from the weapon.
Okay. And does that magazine appear to be in the same general condition as when you last saw it back in January of 2013?
There's some additional writing on it, but other than that, yes.
I move then to introduce State's Exhibits 6 and 6A into evidence.
Any objections on 6 and 6A? They're both admitted. Yes, sir, you may.
Let me hand you now, ma'am, what's been marked by identification as State Exhibit number 12. Do you recognize that? And if you do, can you tell us what that is?
I do. This is one of our evidence envelopes that we normally place evidence in. It's also marked with the same identifying factors as the other two items of evidence. It's got my initials on the seal and my name on the front.
And what is, as you look at that evidence envelope, is that in a, can you see inside that envelope?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's not in a sealed condition right now, is that correct?
Correct.
And what is that envelope supposed to contain?
A .45 caliber magazine containing 7 live rounds.
Okay. And then as you look inside that envelope, is that what you find?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And do those appear to be the magazines that we saw in the photographs just a short while ago before our break, where you had those in your lab and photographed them?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And does that magazine and those rounds, do those appear to be in the same condition as when you last saw them back in January of 2013?
Yes, they do.
I move then to introduce the exhibit number 12 into evidence.
Any objections? 12 is admitted.
And before we get lost, the other magazine that we saw in your photographs, was that the magazine that was marked State Exhibit 6A? Just short a while ago when you had the gun, State Exhibit 6 and 6A?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I remember in your photographs you had 2 different magazines that you photographed.
Correct.
So would that be the magazine from the gun and the one you're currently holding in State Exhibit number 12?
Correct, yes.
Before doing or assisting in the search warrant at 165 Montesino Drive on the 15th of January, did you have the occasion to assist in a different search warrant connected to this case the day before on the 14th of January on Water Oak Drive here in Raleigh?
I did.
And are you aware of a particular firearm or other item of evidence that you helped collect from that scene?
Yes, I am.
What did you collect from that scene?
That particular weapon was a Century Arms brand, model AKMS, 7.62 rifle, also with 2 magazines, with ammo as well.
And did you yourself actually collect that item from the scene of the search warrant?
I did.
I may approach your arm?
Yes, sir, you may.
So you was previously marked by identification, man, and State Exhibit number 4. Do you see that 4 on there?
I do.
Okay. And do you recognize what that is?
This is a evidence box for a rifle, also containing the same information for this case as the previous items of evidence, and my initials on the seal tape that were once sealed.
Okay. And that box, as you look at it now, is no longer sealed, correct?
Right.
All right. As you open it up, what do you find inside?
There is a rifle with some projectiles and shell casings in a small plastic bag, 2 magazines, and a bag marked as containing 15 live rounds.
And does this appear to be the same weapon that you collected from 4000 Water Oak Drive back on January the 14th of 2013?
Yes, it does.
And I can see you checking between that and your notes. How can you be sure that that's the same weapon you collected?
There is markings of a serial number on the weapon. There's also a brand of weapon stamped on the bottom, and it matches what's in my report.
And if I may approach you, Ron?
Yes, you may.
Does that weapon appear to be in the same condition as when you last saw it back on January the 14th of 2013?
No, it doesn't.
And again, how is it different?
Like the previous rifle, there are zip ties through the chamber of the weapon, as well as what appears to be a small manila envelope shoved into the cylinder.
Okay. Besides those changes, does it appear to be in the same condition otherwise?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Your Honor, move then to introduce State's Exhibit Number 4 into evidence.
Mr. Cutler, any objections?
No.
It's admitted.
You also indicated while there on the 14th of January 2013 that you processed that Dodge Durango motor vehicle. Is that correct?
Correct.
We saw a photograph of a .40 caliber round that you said you found in that vehicle. Did you find that?
I did.
Did you collect that round?
I did.
If I may approach, Your Honor?
You may.
And let me hand you what's marked for identification now. It states Exhibit Number 75. You see that red sticker on there?
Yes.
Okay. As you look at that, can you tell us what that is?
That's one of our evidence envelopes. It's also marked with the same case identifying information. It's also sealed with my initials on the back.
And what is supposed to be contained in State's Exhibit Number 75?
One live round with head stamp Hornaday 40 S7W.
And as you look at that envelope right now, is it in a sealed condition?
It is, yes.
Okay. And is this the kind of envelope that you use to after you collect evidence, to store it in the property room for bringing it later to court?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If you would then go ahead and please open State's Exhibit Number 75 and see if you find that round inside.
Yes.
Do you find it inside?
Yeah, I did, yes.
And is it the same brand and caliber that you have noted on the outside?
It is.
And what caliber is that?
40 caliber.
Okay. Does that .40 caliber round appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it back on January the 14th of 2013?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, move then to introduce State Exhibit 75 in evidence.
Any objections?
No.
75 is admitted.
Now let's deal with our scene at 708 Colonial Drive from back on the 5th
Okay.
of January 2013. We saw photographs of all kind of casings and projectiles that you noted for us. Did you actually collect those items as well?
I did.
May I approach?
Yes, sir, you may.
Ma'am, let me hand you what's been marked for identification now as State Exhibits 18 through 22. Okay, I'm going to ask you to look at those for a moment and see if you can tell us what those are.
These appear to be items of evidence collected by myself from 708 Colonial Drive.
And what items, or what, are they also the same kind of evidence or type of evidence?
Similar, yes.
And what are they?
Projectiles, as I believe they're all projectiles. I'm sorry, they're all projectiles.
All right. And as you look at State Exhibits 18 through 22, are those all in those same manila evidence envelopes that you had talked about before?
Yes, they are.
So can you see inside of those envelopes?
No,
Are they all currently sealed now as you examine them on the stand?
they are all sealed, yes.
I'm sorry. And were you the one that originally packaged these items to keep, for safekeeping, to bring to court at a later time?
Yes, I was.
And also, I guess, do you also seal those up for, to send things to a lab for further processing?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Are you aware whether or not these items marked State Exhibits 18 through 22, whether they have been sent for further processing anywhere?
Yes, they have.
Do you see some markings from the, from another agency on the outside of each of those envelopes?
Yes, on the back of each envelope is a sticker marked North Carolina State Crime Lab with, I believe, a case number and an item number.
Okay. And is that on each one of these marked State Exhibit 18 through 22?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Fine. Besides sending these items to the crime lab, are you aware of any other places where these projectiles would have been sent?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So looking at State Exhibit number 18, if you would, you just go ahead and open up State Exhibit number 18. And what do you find inside?
Inside is a projectile.
Okay. Is it loose in the envelope there?
It is.
And does it, there are no, on a projectile, there aren't any specific markings, like brand names or calibers or anything like that, correct?
No, there's not.
But does it appear to be one of the projectiles that you collected from the scene at 708 Colonial Drive back on January the 5th of 2013?
Yes, it does.
Okay. If you would return that back to the envelope. Is there any reason that you can see from those envelopes or from your reports or notes why there would be anything different in the remaining sealed envelopes that are marked State Exhibits 19 through 22?
No, I don't.
And can you feel the projectile in each one of those?
Yes, I can.
Your Honor, I move then to introduce State Exhibits 18 through 22 into evidence.
Any objections, Mr. Cutler? No. Those 5 exhibits are admitted.
Ma'am, let me hand you now what's been marked for identification as State Exhibits 25 through 29. You see those red stickers on there?
Yes.
Just ask you to review those for a moment. See if you can tell us what those are.
25 again through what, Mr.
29.
These are all additional items of evidence that were collected that day from the scene, and they're all either projectiles or projectile fragments.
And just so that the jury can understand what you mean when you describe it that way, what's the difference between a projectile and a projectile fragment?
The projectile is the copper portion of the entire bullet that separates from the shell casing that's found at the scene. A fragment is just part of a projectile. Once a projectile passes through so many objects, it begins to fragment depending on what it passes through. And so sometimes it'll just be small metal fragments from the projectile. So a projectile is more intact, and fragments are just portions of a projectile.
And as you look at those envelopes marked State Exhibits 25 through 29, do you see your case identification information on those?
I do.
And have those been sent, can you tell from the envelopes, to another agency for further processing?
Yes, they all contain the same state crime lab sticker on the back of each one.
And besides that agency, are you aware of any other analysis or reason for somebody to deal with these projectiles or fragments that you collected from the scene?
No.
And can you feel either a container or a fragment or a projectile in each one of those envelopes?
Yes.
And are all those envelopes currently in a sealed condition right now as you examine them?
Yes, they are.
Thank you, ma'am. I move then to introduce State Exhibits 25 through 29 into evidence.
Any objections, Mr. Cutler?
There you go.
They're all received into evidence.
May I approach you, ma'am?
Yes, sir, you may.
And we'll be handing you now what's been marked by identification as State Exhibits 30, 31, and 32. Ask you to look at those for a moment, see if you can tell us what those are.
These are also additional items of evidence from the scene. They are, again, projectiles or fragments.
And are all those in a sealed envelope right now?
Yes, they are.
And do you see your same case identifying information on the front of each of those envelopes?
Yes, I do.
And do they all appear to have been sent to another agency for any kind of further testing or analysis?
Yes, they've all been sent to the state crime lab and contain the stickers on the back to show that.
And can you feel whether there's either another container or a projectile inside of each of those envelopes?
Yes, I can.
And other than going to the state crime lab, are you aware of any other place that had reason to touch or work or do anything with these particular projectiles?
No.
Your Honor, I move then to introduce State Exhibits 30 through 32 into evidence.
Mr. Cutler, do you want to be heard?
No, you don't.
They're all received.
All right. We take those. I'm going to hand you now what's marked by identification as State Exhibits 33 through 61. I'm going to ask you to go through those each individually and make sure that we still have those inclusive numbers on the red sticker from 33 through 61.
They're all there.
And what are these? Can you tell?
These are all shell casings found at the scene.
And what kind of shell casings are they supposed to be?
They're all labeled as 7.62 by 39 rifle shell casings.
And when we've shown us in the photographs there several of these casings that you found along the scene. Did you collect all of those casings from that scene?
Yes, I did.
After collecting those casings, what did you do with them?
I packaged them and put them in a secure evidence locker so that they could be processed at a later date.
Okay. And did you package them separately as we have listed there as State's Exhibits 33 through 61?
Yes, I did.
Do each of those envelopes have your case identifying information on it about this particular case?
Yes, they do.
Are all of those envelopes in a sealed condition as you look at them right now?
They are.
Do each of those envelopes appear to have marks on them or information in them showing that these items have been sent to another agency for further testing?
Yes, they do.
And where were they sent?
They were sent to the North Carolina State Crime Lab.
Since we have, how many are we dealing with here? How many cases are these?
I believe, I'm not good at math, so I'm going to count.
Yes, ma'am.
$29 total.
Starting, let's look at, let's take the first one, say Exhibit 31 there.
33.
33, I'm sorry, 33. Looking at State Exhibit 33, would you open that envelope, please? Okay, and take out what you find inside. What do you find inside the envelope?
This is a rifle round marked 7.62 by 39.
And is it just as you have marked on the outside of the envelope, marked State Exhibit number 33?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Does that shell casing appear to be in the same condition as when you last saw and collected it back on January the 5th of 2013 at 708 Colonial Drive here in Wake County?
There appears to be additional markings on the bottom portion.
Are you aware where those markings came from?
I believe they came from the state lab.
Okay. Other than those markings, does the casing appear to be in the same condition?
Yes, it does.
Okay. You can put it back in the envelope, please. Let's go to the end, say Exhibit 61. You would open that envelope, please. What do you find inside the envelope?
This is another 7.62 rifle round shell casing.
And is it just as you have described on the outside of the envelope?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And again, like the one before, does it appear to have some extra markings on it, possibly from the state crime lab?
Yes, it does.
Other than that, does that casing appear to be in the same condition as when you last saw and collected it on January the 5th of 2013 from 708 Colonial Drive?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Put that back. And then I'm going to ask you just to pick one from the middle. Pick it, tell us what state's exhibit number that's on there.
This is State's Exhibit 47.
Okay. Is it sealed right now as you're looking at it?
It is.
If you would open that up, please. What do you find inside?
It's another rifle round shell casing, head stamp 7.62 times 39.
Is it as you have described on the outside of that envelope?
It is.
And does it have those markings on it that you believe might be from the crime lab, the state crime lab as well?
Yes, there are.
Other than those markings, does that casing appear to be in the same condition as when you last saw and collected it back on January the 5th of 2013 from 708 Colonial Drive?
Yes.
Is there any reason that you know of or can think of why each of these other envelopes shouldn't have the same casings and markings and being in the same condition as when you saw them back in January 2013?
No, I would expect them all to be the same.
I'd move then to introduce the exhibits 33 through 61 to evidence.
Any objections, Mr. Cutler?
No, Your Honor.
They're all admitted.
May I approach again?
Yes, sir, you may.
I will take those from you, ma'am, and hand you what's been marked by identification as State Exhibit 62 and 63. Do you see those stickers on there with those numbers?
Yes, I do.
What are those supposed to be?
These are supposed to contain each an unfired round, rifle round, head stamp 7.62 by 39.
And are each of those envelopes in a sealed condition right now?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Does it have your identifying case information on the front?
Yes, it does.
Does that information match this particular case?
Yes, it does.
Okay. If you would go ahead and open up State Exhibit 62 then. What do you find inside?
It is an unfired rifle round, head stamp 7.62 by 39.
Okay. And is this one of those unfired rounds that you found and collected from the scene at 708 Colonial Drive?
Yes, it is.
If you can you remind the jury, where did you find the 2 unfired rounds?
This one was in the living room in front of the couch where the male victim was found. This item number 8. The second one, item number 32, was found right at the threshold of the kitchen and the small hallway.
Looking at State Exhibit 62 there, does that round appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it from that living room floor back in January of 2013?
It does.
Okay. Does it have any of those markings that you talked about before from somewhere else?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So does it appear to be in the same exact condition as when you collected it back at that time at that place?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Let's open up State Exhibit 63 then and tell us what you find in there. What do you find inside?
Also an unfired round, head stamp 7.62 by 39.
And again, is that as described on the front of the envelope?
Yes, it is.
Is this, where did this particular item come from?
This item number 32 was from the threshold of the kitchen and the hallway.
And does it appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it from that place at that time?
Yes, it does.
Does it have any markings or anything on it where it looks like it's been looked at or analyzed by some other agency or person?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So does it appear to be in the same exact condition then as when you collected it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah, I move to introduce then State Exhibit 62 and 63 in evidence.
Any objections? It's admitted. They both are.
Approaching again, Your Honor.
Yes, sir, you may.
Ma'am, now let me hand you what's been marked by identification as State Exhibits 64 through 74.
Okay.
Ask you to look at those and see if you can tell us what those are.
They are shell casings collected from the scene at 708 Colonial Drive.
Okay. And what kind of, could you tell what kind of casings these are?
These are possible 45 round shell casings.
Okay. And is that what you have noted on each one of these envelopes marked State Exhibits 64 through 74?
Yes, it is.
Are all of those envelopes in a sealed condition right now?
Yes, they are.
And do they all have your identifying information pertaining to this case on the outside of the envelope?
Yes, they do.
Do they all appear to have been sent to another agency or place for further analysis or testing?
Yes, they do.
Where was that?
The North Carolina State Crime Lab.
Okay. If you would, go ahead and open up State Exhibit 64, please. What do you find inside?
It's a shell casing that appears to be a 45. The head stamp has been rubbed off, making it completely illegible.
Okay. And does this appear to be one of the casings that you collected from that scene at 708 Colonial Drive back in January the 5th of 2013?
Yes, it does.
Do you even have it documented? Do you know where this particular casing came from, where it was found?
This is item number 1. This is one of the shell casings that was found outside of the front door at 708 Colonial Drive.
I think we saw the photograph of 2 casings out on that front stoop, is that correct?
Correct.
Is this one of them?
Correct. One, yes.
Does that casing appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it back from that time at that place?
No, there are markings on the backside, presumably from the State Crime Lab.
Is it the same kind of markings that you've been seeing on this other evidence that you've seen and testified about?
Yes, it is.
All right. Other than those markings, does that casing appear to be in the same condition?
Yes, it does.
Thank you, ma'am. You put that one back. Let's go to the last one, State Exhibit 74. Would you open that one up, please? What do you find inside?
This is also what appears to be a 45 caliber shell casing. And again, the head stamp is scratched off, making it illegible.
Is that what was supposed to be in there from your remarks on the front of the envelope?
Yes, it is.
Does it have the same markings on there that you saw in the other shell casing, possibly from the State Crime Lab?
It does.
Other than those markings, does that casing appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it back at 708 Colonial Drive on January the 5th of 2013?
Yes, it does.
And just so that we know, can you tell from your notes and your markings on that envelope, where did this particular casing, where was it found inside that residence?
I can. Item 58 is from the blanket, which was on top of the male victim on the couch.
I'm going to do, and the back, you said is the back scratched off as well, like you've talked about before and showed some photographs before?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing like we did with the other casings. Would you please just pick one in the middle and tell us what number you picked out?
This is State's Exhibit 68.
Okay. And is it sealed right now?
It is.
And what is it supposed to contain?
A shell casing with a distorted head stamp, possible 45.
You would open it up, let us know what you find inside.
Appears to be a 45 shell casing with the head stamp scratched off again.
Are the same markings on there that you testified earlier that may have come from the State Crime Lab?
Yes, they are.
Other than those markings, does that casing appear to have been appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it back at 708 Colonial Drive on January the 5th of 2013?
Yes, it does.
And can you tell us from your notes and your documentation there where this particular casing came from?
Item 5 is shell casing from the living room floor.
Looking at all of together, States Exhibit 64 and 74, did they all come from that scene at 708 Colonial Drive?
Yes, they do.
And do you have any reason to believe that any of the other unopened envelopes will be any different than the 3 that we've already opened in here with respect to what you have noted on these envelopes?
No, I don't.
in the other unopened envelopes, can you feel the casing or item inside those envelopes?
Yes.
Okay. And when you packaged these items, did you note whether or not each of these casings had that head stamp scratched off of them like you've shown on the other three?
Each of them did, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I move to introduce then State Exhibits 64 through 74 into evidence.
Any objections? They're all admitted.
You said that you assisted in the search warrant that took place at 165 Montesino Drive back on January the 15th of 2013, is that right?
Correct.
Did you also, in helping and assisting with that search warrant, do a sketch that could be later be used to kind of illustrate the floor plan of that particular residence?
From Montesino?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Do you recall, were there any other CCBI agents who were with you when you were processing the scene on Montesino Drive back in January of 2013?
There were not.
Ma'am, let me hand you what's been marked for identification here as State Exhibit number 77. You see that red sticker with the 77 on it?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recognize that?
It appears to be the layout of the location at 165 Montesino Drive.
Okay. And again, that's why I asked. Do you recall preparing a sketch or anything, just like you have up there, I think, State Exhibit number 76, which was kind of a sketch of the scene on Colonial. They appear to be similar, is that correct? I mean, as far as the type on there?
Correct.
Do you know, was State Exhibit number 77, is that something that was generated by your agency?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I believe so.
But you're not aware, you did not create that?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I don't have anything else.
Cross-examination.
Question, Good afternoon. Agent Smith.
Hi.
Happen to have State's Exhibit 76.
I do.
Yes, sir, you may.
Um, State's Exhibit 76 is the diagram of 708 and 710.
Correct.
Did you do this diagram?
I did not.
Okay. 710 appears to have a large space in the back that's not divided into rooms. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's not the way 710 was, is it?
No.
Okay, so that's just not been drawn as far as where the walls are and that kind of thing on the back of that diagram.
Correct. There was no, I don't believe we even went in that area. There was no items of evidence or areas of interest in that area.
And just to clarify, when you discussed the little hallway, and as you face from the kitchen down the hallway, you see a closet.
Correct.
In 708 Colonial. Is behind that closet, is that the closet for the bedroom of either one of the bedrooms for 708?
Behind the closet door here?
Right.
Not in 708, no. In
Okay,
710.
So this bedroom, the closet's does not run in behind the hall closet?
It is in this area here, so I believe it's partially backs up to it, yes.
Because this diagram shows a deep closet being that hall closet. Looks like you could walk into it, correct?
No. Mm-mm.
But that's not the way it is, correct?
Correct.
Okay. This you said is not scale, correct?
Correct.
All right. But you do believe that the closet in the 710 Colonial Drive, one of the closets in that house does back up to that same closet space area in 708?
The hall closet, yes.
You mentioned earlier that you went to 4,000 Water Oak Drive
Yes, sir.
as a result of a search warrant that was executed there.
Yes, sir.
And I believe you testified about, well, I'm not sure, if maybe you did not testify. You did take pictures from that residence, correct?
I did.
Of the items that were recovered.
Yes.
And in that search, did you document what was recovered and what you photographed?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And in addition to the AK-47, I think you testified about, and the magazines that I think were in one of the exhibits that was handed up to you earlier. There was also a drum magazine found.
Correct.
Do you recall there was a duffel bag, a blue duffel bag recovered?
I did not collect that. I believe that was collected by an investigator with the sheriff's office.
All right. Do you recall whether that bag had some assorted clothing in it?
I don't remember.
All right.
I may have taken photographs of it, but I don't recall right offhand.
Okay. And you recall a camouflage ballistic vest was also found?
I believe so, yes.
And, 2 bandanas, you recall that?
I think so, yes.
other than what you testified to about documenting the crime scene of 708 Colonial and gathering the shell casings and projectiles, do you do any of the other processing did you do any of the other processing like for fingerprints or DNA or any other evidence?
Yes, I did.
And were you involved, do you recall whether any shoe impressions were found at 708?
Yes, they were.
And were they documented? And how do you, when you find a shoe impression, in this case, what did you find?
I believe there were 3 shoe impressions found at the scene.
Would they be impressions like a footprint, or would they be, what kind of impression?
Shoe impressions from the sole of a shoe.
And what surface did you find those on?
It was the living room floor. I believe it was linoleum type flooring.
So it's like a print?
Correct.
All right. And how do you remove that, other than by photographing it? Do you have some other way to preserve the print?
Yes, once we photograph it with and without a scale, normally we will, in order to develop it or enhance it, we will use magnetic fingerprint powder, much like we would to enhance a fingerprint. Once we see an impression on the floor, that's when we would photograph it. In order to collect it, we would use either regular tape and place it on the floor over the impression, pick it up and place it onto basically a large white card, or we can use what's called a gel lift, which is a little bit thicker of a surface to be able to use on rough surfaces. And it's just a large adhesive surface. Basically, place it on the impression, lift it up, and collect it that way.
And did y'all collect those in this case?
We did.
Did you also, just to clarify, one of the shoe impressions was out of the door?
Let me refer back to my report. Are you referring to the front door of 708?
I'm not sure. It appears that one shoe impression, partial shoe impression, exterior side of the front main door, page 8 of one of your reports, or 128, maybe face stamp. It was item 67.
Okay. Yes, there was a partial shoe impression from the exterior side of the front door.
And that's one of the 3 you found, or is that an additional one?
I believe that's an additional one. I can refer back to the original report. There were 3 additional partial shoe impressions from the living room floor. Items 52, 53, and 54.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Redirect.
Yes, ma'am. Since you're talking about these shoe impressions, would you explain to the jury what you're trying to accomplish in trying to lift the shoe impression?
When we look for shoe impressions, we look for any kind of impressions, whether it be impressions, three-dimensional impressions in mud, or just an impression where it's on a flat surface. Once we enhance those, we can lift it just like a fingerprint. And if we were to ever obtain a shoe from a suspect, we can then compare the two for a possible match, just like as we would a fingerprint.
Are you aware are shoe impressions as specific as a fingerprint?
I believe they're not as specific, but they are pretty close.
And shoe impressions obviously come from whatever footwear the person could be wearing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right. And so unless they have a unique pair of shoes, obviously it would be of that type or brand shoe that they're wearing, correct?
Correct. The match that we would be able to make would not only match it back to a particular brand or style of shoe, it could actually match it back to the actual shoe.
Do you know how they would be able to do that?
Well, much like with fingerprints, there's different points of identification on a shoe impression. Each person walks on their shoes a different way, whether you walk on the outside of your feet or the inside. The way you wear your shoes is individual to each person. There can also be cuts on the bottom of your shoe. If you step on glass, it will leave an identifying mark. And our latent examiners will use those individual points of identification to match up with the actual bottom of an actual shoe, and match the two together just like they would a fingerprint. Just like different points of identification on a fingerprint, there's points of identification on the bottom of your shoe.
And are you aware, not asking the results of anything, but are you aware whether or not there were any shoe impressions that were either analyzed or gone to your latent examiners there at CCBI?
They were, yes.
Okay. Are you aware, without saying it, are you aware whether there were any results from those?
I'm not aware.
Okay. Same with, I think in some of the photographs we saw the black powder all over things inside the house. Were you involved in trying to find fingerprints inside that house?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And again, are you aware whether or not there was any kind of result from any analysis of those fingerprints? Not saying what those were, but are you aware there were results?
Yes, there were.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I don't have anything.
Any recross?
No, you thank you.
Members of the jury, it's now 12 minutes to 1. This is a good time for us to break for lunch. I'm going to release you until 2:15. Please keep in mind the rules. Don't talk about this case among yourselves. Don't allow anybody to talk about it in your presence. Don't form any opinions about anything that you've heard. And don't conduct any type of independent research or investigation. Again, leave your notebooks there in your chair and return to the jury room at 2:15. And at that time, we'll pick up where we left off. I'm going to ask everyone else to remain seated while the jury is excused.